fog on the highway was so incredibly thick that the car's headlights were barely cutting through the dark. Everything outside looked like this deep blue and black nightmare, and the air was so freezing cold, you could practically feel it seeping right through the glass. Michael was gripping the steering wheel so tight his knuckles were white and his veins were popping. He'd been driving down this totally deserted highway for 4 hours straight. He just wanted to get home. The drive was dead silent. The radio was just spitting out static, so he'd turned it off a while ago. Suddenly, cutting through the fog, a road sign flashed by on the shoulder. It read, Hollow Ridge, 44 km. Michael let out a huge sigh of relief. Finally, he was getting close. He pressed his foot down and sped up just a bit. Exactly 2 minutes later, his headlights caught something on the side of the road. There was this beat-up old car sitting there with its hood popped, thick smoke pouring out of the engine. Standing right next to it was a guy in a bright yellow raincoat. You couldn't see his face through the fog, but he was waving his arms, trying to flag Michael down. Michael instantly moved his foot to the brake, but then his gut told him to stop. Pulling over for a total stranger on a dead highway in the middle of the night was a terrible idea. This is exactly how highway robberies happen. So, Michael took his foot off the brake, hit the gas, and blew right past the guy in the yellow raincoat. He checked his rearview mirror, but the fog had already swallowed the guy up completely. Michael told himself he did the right thing. He glanced down at the clock on his dash, 2:15 a.m. He just kept driving. By now, the fog was so thick it felt like he was driving through a void where time didn't even exist. Exactly 20 minutes later, another road sign caught his headlights. He glanced over at it. It read, Hollow Ridge, 44 km. Michael frowned in confusion. He muttered out loud,
How is this possible?
I've been going 50 miles an hour for 20 minutes. I already passed this sign. He figured the city must have just accidentally put up 2 of the exact same signs. He brushed it off and kept going. But exactly 2 minutes later, his blood ran ice cold. Right there on the shoulder was the exact same beat-up car, hood popped, engine smoking. And standing in the exact same spot was the same guy in the yellow raincoat, waving his arms. This was literally impossible. Michael hadn't turned around. He had been driving straight the whole time. How were they in front of him again? Pure panic started setting in. This time, he slammed the gas pedal down so hard the engine screamed, and he flew past the guy like an absolute bullet. Michael was basically hyperventilating at this point. He grabbed his phone to check the GPS, but the map was completely blank. It was just a red dot spinning in circles. No signal. Just relax. It's just exhaustion. You're just hallucinating, he told himself, trying desperately to calm down. He cranked the car's heater all the way up, but somehow, this weird, unnatural freezing cold just kept filling up the cabin. Another 20 minutes went by. Michael was staring dead ahead, completely paralyzed with fear. Cutting through the fog, his headlights lit up the exact same sign again. Hollow Ridge, 44 km, and exactly 2 minutes later, there was the car. And there was the guy in the yellow raincoat. But this time, something was horribly different. The guy wasn't standing on the shoulder anymore. He was standing dead center in the middle of the road. And his body language had changed. He wasn't waving for help like before. He had his hand up, commanding Michael to stop. Michael freaked out and yanked the steering wheel. The car barely swerved past him. Michael's heart was pounding so hard he could literally hear it in his ears. He realized he was trapped in some kind of insane loop. He was on a road with no beginning and no end. Suddenly, the car radio, which had been turned off this whole time, flicked on by itself. A weird, heavily distorted, scratchy voice started coming through the speakers. It didn't sound like a radio host. It sounded like someone talking from underwater. The voice sputtered through the static.
You cannot leave him behind.
Michael started frantically smashing the power button, but the radio wouldn't turn off.
He is waiting for you. You cannot run. You won't be able to complete the circle.
Michael lost it. He screamed and punched the dashboard.
Who are you? Who the hell is in here? Tell me who you are!
20 minutes later, the road sign appeared again. But it didn't say Hollow Ridge, 44 km. It just had one word written in huge letters: stop. And exactly 2 minutes later, the headlights hit the scene. This time, the guy in the yellow raincoat was standing directly in front of the car. Michael slammed both feet on the brakes with everything he had. The tires locked up, burning rubber, until the car jerked to a stop. The front bumper was literally an inch away from the guy's legs. Dead silence. The whole world just went totally quiet, except for the low hum of the car's engine. The guy in the yellow raincoat didn't flinch. He just stood there, his back facing the car. Michael's brain was about to short circuit from the terror. He realized he couldn't just drive his way out of this nightmare. He had to face it. His hands shaking uncontrollably, he let go of the steering wheel. He unbuckled his seatbelt, slowly pushed the door open, and stepped out onto the highway. The cold outside was absolutely bone-chilling. He took a few slow steps around to the front of his car.
What? What do you want? Why are you stopping?
His voice totally giving out.
Why are you stopping me?
The figure slowly turned around. Michael's eyes widened in pure horror. He tried to scream, but the fear literally choked him. That guy wasn't wearing a yellow raincoat at all. It was just a normal shirt. But it was so violently torn up and soaked in bright red blood that it looked like a raincoat from a distance. And his face, the guy's face was so brutally crushed and mangled that it didn't even look human anymore. But then Michael looked down at the guy's wrist. He was wearing a metal watch, the exact same watch Michael was wearing. His height, his build, his clothes, it was all identical. It wasn't some stranger. It was Michael. Dripping with blood, the mangled other Michael stared at him and whispered through broken lips,
You cannot go back in time.
Suddenly, a violent jolt ripped through Michael's body. It was like a thick curtain was ripped away from his brain, and a flood of blocked memories rushed in all at once. He remembered now. He was driving earlier. That broken down car on the shoulder, that wasn't the stranger's car. That was his car. He remembered the engine overheating. He remembered pulling over and popping the hood. He remembered standing on the side of the road, waving his arms, desperately trying to flag someone down for help. And then, out of the thick fog, two massive headlights had appeared out of nowhere. A speeding semi-truck. It had hit him at full highway speed. Michael remembered the impact, the feeling of his body being thrown through the air, every bone shattering. He wasn't driving home tonight. He was never inside that warm car. He was lying dead, right there on the cold asphalt. The human brain refuses to accept death right away. In those final few seconds before shutting down completely, your consciousness creates an illusion to protect you from the horrific reality. To escape the brutal pain of the accident, Michael's dying brain had created this fake journey. The thick fog, the endless drive, the warning on the radio. It was all just the final, desperate dream of a dying mind, playing on a loop. But his time was officially up. The loop was complete, and the illusion was shattering. Michael collapsed to his knees. Right in front of his eyes, his perfectly fine, running car started dissolving into the fog. It faded away, leaving only a violently mangled wreck with a burnt-out engine. And lying right there in the middle of the dark highway was his own crushed, lifeless body. Just then, cutting through the thick fog, those exact same massive yellow headlights appeared again, bearing down like a monster. The deafening horn of a heavy semi-truck blasted through the air. The blinding light filled Michael's eyes one last time, and then absolute darkness and silence took over. Forever.